Hello friend, you're welcome. Let's talk about the history of Linux. But to do that, let's go back to the very beginning.
Where is the computer? Here is the computer.
You see, my friend, the whole room is the computer. And that's exactly how computers in the olden days were. They were very large and occupied a whole room. And of course, they were expensive. Very, very. These were called mainframe computers. Unlike now that computers are very common, then they were only used by a selected few, mostly big organizations. But as large and expensive as these computers were, you of today won't find their features impressive at all. For instance, let me ask you, what is the storage capacity of your phone? Huh? You tell me. In the olden era, when one of the computers created then could hold up to 400 megabyte storage capacity, the whole world celebrated. Oh yeah, that was a massive achievement for them then. Another important feature these computers lacked was the ability to multitask. In computing, we call that multitasking. A modern computer can run a web browser, a word processor, and stream music simultaneously. But in the old days, it wasn't like that. To use a computer at that time, you had to run only one task at a time. In order to solve this, something happened in 1965. Multics, 1965. In 1965, three tech giants at the time, AT&T's research department called Bell Labs, MIT, and General Electric, joined together with the goal of creating the most advanced operating system ever. But here's the problem. Their vision went beyond creating an operating system that could run multiple tasks at a time. These people were thinking big. Their vision was to provide computing power to everyone in the Boston area. You know, mainframe computers back then were only operated by specialists, but these folks wanted everyone to be able to use a computer without actually owning one. Their big dream was to let multiple people use the same computer at the same time, and in computing, that concept is called time sharing. This project they worked on was called Multics, which stands for Multiplexed Information and Computing Service. But as people used to say, time will tell, and in 1969, time did tell. In 1969, 4 years after, Bell Labs dropped out of the Multics project, simply because the project made little progress despite the time, effort, money, and resources invested. After AT&T dropped out of the Multics project, one of the researchers at Bell Labs, Ken Thompson, became frustrated with the existing operating systems at the time. They were complex, heavy, and difficult to work with. At the same time, Ken Thompson had a strong interest in a computer game called Space War. He wanted a system that was simple, fast, and flexible enough to run the game properly. Using the experience gained from working on Multics, Ken Thompson, together with Dennis Ritchie, the creator of the C programming language, and other researchers, decided to build a much simpler single-user version of Multics from scratch. The operating system they created was called UNIX, as a pun on Multics, and UNIX stands for Unixed Information and Computing Service. Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie designed and implemented the first version of Unix, which first ran on a PDP-7 computer. Initially, Unix was written entirely in assembly language, which is very difficult for humans to read and understand. This meant that only a few specialists could really work with the system. When Unix was rewritten in the C programming language, the source code became much more readable and easier for humans to understand. People could now study how the operating system actually worked. Because of this, by 1974, many academic institutions began using Unix as a tool for teaching and studying software development in universities. So, from this point, things began to advance pretty fast. In 1975, BSD was created by Bill Joy at the University of California based on Unix code. Version 7 of Unix was released in 1979 as the first portable version. Earlier versions of Unix were tied to specific hardware, meaning if you changed the machine, you had to rewrite the system. Version 7 changed that. The same Unix could now run on different machines with little or no modification. Cool, right? Version 7 influenced other operating systems, including Xenix, developed by Microsoft, and Santa Cruz Operation. Fast forward to the early 1980s. By this time, Unix had moved beyond universities and research labs. Companies had started selling Unix as a commercial product. When that happened, the Unix source code was no longer freely shared the way it used to be. People could use Unix, but they no longer saw how it worked or freely modify it. In 1983, Richard Stallman strongly disagreed with this change. He believed that software should be open and accessible to everyone. Because of this belief, he started the GNU Project. GNU stands for GNU's Not Unix. Yeah, it is a recursive acronym. The goal was to build a Unix-like operating system that was completely free, giving people the freedom to run, study, modify, and share software. In 1987, Andrew Tannenbaum developed Minix for educational purposes. It was designed so students could study the source code and learn how an operating system works. One of the people who studied Minix was Linus Torvalds. While studying from it, he felt he could build something better for his own needs. This led Linus Torvalds to create the Linux kernel. A kernel is the core part of an operating system. It manages the hardware and system resources. However, on its own, a kernel cannot function without other tools and utilities. By 1992, something important happened. You remember Richard Stallman's GNU project? He had already built all the operating system tools people needed, like commands, libraries, and utilities. At the same time, Linus Torvalds had developed the Linux kernel, the core part of the system that talks directly to the computer's hardware. Individually, neither GNU nor Linux could function as a complete system, but when they were combined, they finally formed a full system that people could actually use. This combination became known as GNU Linux. Many people just call it Linux, but technically, Linux is only the kernel. And just like that, Linux as a complete system was born. But what happened next? I'll see you in the next video. The History of Linux Part 2.